My name is Moyo Ogunseinde. I am an architect, trained architect and artist and real estate developer. Agaculture is a product design company, and we specialize in creating things that are inspired by Africa, inspired by the past, history, culture, traditions, and the present, and creating our own future with what products design can be that has roots and lineage and interest in Africa. So I was born in Ibadan, Oyo State, many years ago, and I grew up in Ibadan, with a city that's very rich in culture, history, tradition, particularly the Yoruba tradition, and that always was something that I imbibed in my DNA. So having traveled all over the world and returned back to Nigeria, whenever I traveled abroad, I always sort of had this feeling of always wanting to come back home to experience the culture, and realizing that what we have back home in Nigeria and Africa was really rich and resounded with me and needed to be told a lot more. And so when I moved back to Nigeria, I felt that there needed to be an expression of design, of Africa through design, and that's how Agaculture came about. Biggest challenge has been production, sourcing of materials, and managing the production process. It's been a challenge, but I believe that is the story of Africa. Africa is all about, it's a really tough terrain, but in the toughness, in the challenges, there's a lot of beauty that comes out once you persevere, and you come out with something that's so unique, that could not be born anywhere else but on the continent. So production, because of finding skilled artisans that are consistent in delivering the same thing over and over again, has been quite tough. But the more we work with artisans, the more we recognize that it's about working together and teaching them and us, and them teaching us how they make things based on the skills they learned, and how we can infuse our modern way of doing things into it, and coming together with such new, different things. So challenge, but it's been a blessing in disguise, and as well as sourcing of materials. We source materials such as metal and wood, and we also recently got into clothing and using tie and dye process and batik. And sourcing these materials has been somewhat challenging because of the fact that you cannot always guarantee that you get the same material over and over again. So it means that you're always having to think about how to come up with something new because of the limited resources you have. But again, as I said, blessing, because it means that things are continuously being changed and being fresh and innovative, because you have to work with what we're given with. It's important because at Agaculture we have some values that are very important to us, and they stem from essentially 5 Yoruba proverbs, Yoruba words, which can be translated in English or any language you want. Ife, which is love, Inurere, which is kindness, Ayo, which is joy, Okonbale, peace of mind. And what it is these values, once we were able to, to crystallize these values, we saw that it should go across everything. The way we think, the way we speak, the way we design. And having done a first collection, which was based on nostalgia and our childhood memories, the next thing was, okay, what next? And as we're designing, we realized we have so many offcuts. And if Inurere, which is kindness, is essentially a value of ours, it's not kind to have so many materials and you just discard them, because why would you do that? There's actually nothing kind about that. You have materials that we spend so much time to design, source, work with artisans, work with a team of people to create these beautiful objects. Yes, these were the parts that remained, so why should they become a burden to others? And from that, we came up with our next collection, which is called Kindness. And for instance, something I'm sitting on was an offcut of one of our materials, and it's become a piece of furniture that can be used anywhere. We've turned them into bags, we've turned them into so many other things, and now that first collection has now come to a second collection, and we're down to 0 waste. So that is, and also we're also creating jobs as well, because during the downtime, the artisans we're working with, or the tailors, would have gone off. And at this point in time, because there was, we designed things, repurposed things, we're able to come up with a new life, new set of, things to make and engage a whole team. Yeah, so that's the story to sustainability for us. I can give you an example, several. Okay, even the way we dress, dressing up. My mom was, and still is, truly very simple, practical but beautiful dresser, and a traditional. And I remember the whole process of getting ready for weddings and events over the weekend, and laying out the clothes, laying out the iro, buba, wele, and then the head gele, and the whole process, the whole ceremony, and then the use of finding out how an iro could also become an egele. That whole multi-purpose of usage of materials, and the next week it would be used for something else, and they'll use that and they'll hang it on the chair. And so that way of living, simply and purposefully, I now call it, in a way, it's kind, but it was part and parcel of growing up, and intrinsically it was in me, and now I have been able to crystallize it into a line of products that we now call the Acts of Kindness collection. So yeah, that's just an example. There's so many other examples. how do we do that is, as we said, visually. You see the materials we're using, you know the lineage, you know where they're coming from, these techniques, through the materials you touch, through the experiences. So when people engage with the brand, they're engaging with those things, and they just come up with a new perspective of what Africa is. I believe that wherever people come from, there are good parts and bad parts. I think it's really about what you choose to see. Because someone was talking about someone walking through a forest with trees, and they were trying to run through, and they were but they were actually able to get from one point to the other and not hit hit the trees because they were looking at the path in a way. So for us, what it is so whoever chooses to see the trees as the obstacle will see the trees. Whoever chooses to see the pathway will see the pathway. And so for us, we highlight the pathway. We highlight the pathway to an Africa that is rich with values, culture, tradition, history, in the way we eat, the way we live, the way we sleep, the way we dance, so we highlight that, and by highlighting it, we hope that people will be able to see that it's not the obstacles, the trees, which come in different forms. I don't need to go into that, but we highlight the possibilities of Africa, and we hope that by doing that, they would be able to see the good things enough for them to come and visit, experience, and share. Agaculture series. Agaculture series came about because we were really passionate about promoting other artists. As I said, we consider ourselves as artists in different disciplines, but that share similar values with us. And we've been able to do it with different musicians, dancers. We're having the next series with a motion graphic designer who dances as well. We're having it with a cinematographer, just realizing that art is art, design is design, whichever discipline you choose to showcase it through. And we have a platform where we can support each other and collaborate, and the synergy is always quite interesting. And so that makes it for a very unique event that has not been done before, and we're very excited about it and seeing the growth of it. Everything starts with an idea and stories. I love stories. We love stories at AGA, and we love African stories. And it was a story of nostalgia. In a typical Southwest city, playing with flowers, playing with the basic rudimentary shapes of stones, circles, lines, form, hibiscus. I think every African child, I think the plant they probably drew or knew was the hibiscus. You can name the stem, the stalk, the petals. And so taking those things that were so natural that we grew up with, and we said we want to share that story of nostalgia with people. And nostalgia for me, I'm so grateful. I had a very great childhood, and that was a burst of color, life, and energy. And for AGA is about just sharing that. And so because it is about sharing that ayo, joyfulness, why not, if not, share the nostalgia through our first clothing collection. I mean, why? I think classifying art or design there's, what might appear messy to one person might appear quite simple to the next person. What might appear busy to one person might appear simple. Talk less of at a different time in people's lives, what might seem quite sedate might seem quite, problematic for someone else. So I believe that an expression of someone's ideas, as long as they're true to the origins of their ideas and everything else they brought to that that design, or everything else that comes to that intention to create, I find it hard to call it messy. So for me, I think that if for that collection we chose to merge the brightness of our childhood, the nostalgia, the colors, the hibiscus, the buzz of life, and use African techniques and merge them together in what has resulted in this collection, we feel that it's an expression of what we had to, that was made, it was, certain collections are meant to be born. It was its time. And the great thing about design is that, and art is that it's forever changing. One thing that's constant in life is change. And so I can believe that the next collection will have the stamp of Aga, which is African, which is modern, a blast from the past, and then the looking forward, and looking at the techniques, tie and dye, and just looking forward. And I think that merge will always be there, but we might not be talking about nostalgia then, we might be talking about a different part of our history, and it might play out in another iteration, but it's always important that you have our signature, and it'll be clear that it's not messy, it's just what we're sharing at that point in time. What was going on in our mind was, I just realized what was going on in our mind was that we needed a blank canvas that we could work with, that would showcase the different things we design as best as possible. So we see it as a blank canvas that can change into different things and accommodate the diversity of ideas and materials. So that was what's the inspiration behind it, and it had different iterations because we bring different collections in and out, different partners, different events, and it's really served us well. A couple of things I think really helped me, continue to help me. And one of the key things is about being true to oneself. It's really about being true to oneself, and if that presupposes that you know yourself in the first place. So do know yourself, do know your skills, your gifts, your talents, whichever shape or form they are in, because we all have them, and then being true to them and holding them as precious and seeing them as valuable and worthwhile gifts to be given to each and every one of us by God, to be shared to the world, because that's I believe intrinsically our purpose in life is to be a reflection of what God has given us, so that people see us and see God in us. And once we're true to ourselves, we keep it moving. We just keep moving, because I believe the light will shine, our moments will come if we keep on moving. Yeah, those are my tidbits.